What is up, everybody? Welcome into the third episode of Money Cannons. Going to be going over college football week 3 and NFL week 2 tonight. But first, let's take a look at our record so far, Luce. Um, you were above 500 in college
Mhm,
football this week,
mhm.
going 4-3 to put your college football record at 7-7 so far, and also above 500 in the first week of the NFL.
Mhm.
Um, I ended up going 3-4 in college football to put me at 7-8 on the college football side, but 4-1 in the NFL. So starting
Right.
off hot in
Yeah,
the pros.
definitely a good first week. And the first week of NFL tends to be one of the hardest in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we talked about before we did the first week of college football. Cake is not baked yet,
Right.
so we're pretty fortunate to come out above 500. So,
Definitely. Definitely. That
but
was a good week.
yeah, yeah. I
We
mean,
both had the Jets, right? Is that the one that we missed?
yeah. I
Yeah.
That's the only game that I missed, and I think you had the Ravens on Thursday night, but you
Yeah,
got all the other ones. But
right.
if you're up for it, let's get into
Let's go
co-
for it.
college football.
Yes, sir.
First game, got the Arizona Wildcats at the Kansas State Wildcats in Manhattan, Kansas. Got Kansas State -7 over under 60.5.
So you were seeing -7. I was actually seeing 7.5.
Oh, okay, there you go. Well, the last thing I saw was Kansas State -7,
Okay.
but bet the number you want to bet.
Yeah, yeah. So the one I was able to find was 7.5, and
Mm,
it's at -1.25,
mm-hmm.
uh, which I mean I think that's a pretty good bet. Um, this is a Friday the 13th game. That's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So Friday night this week, I'm actually going to pull. I'm going to take Arizona at +7.5 on this one. Um, to me, Arizona's got a pretty high-powered offense. Um, Kansas State hasn't really shown me anything that is overwhelming. I mean, they pulled out a pretty decent matchup against Tulane, but this is a weird line to me that Arizona's getting that many points.
Yeah.
I know it's a home game for Kansas State, but I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona wins this one. This is one I'm definitely taking the +7.5, and I would potentially even sprinkle some on the money line, though I'm not going to.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only difference between 7 and 7.5 is risking the push.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but I think I'm in agreement with you. Honestly, Arizona so far this season looks dynamite on offense. I
Yeah.
know um, competition is not the same as what they'll be facing Friday night at Kansas State, but I fully believe in their quarterback Noah Fafita. I fully
Mhm.
believe in their stud wide receiver in McMillan. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name, but he had a monster game. Um, I think it was in their week 1 matchup, but
Against New Mexico.
yeah, I mean he went nuts. And Kansas State, coming off a nail biter against Tulane, so I don't know. I do agree that that line is a little weird considering what Kansas State just did, but
He had 10 catches for 304 yards.
I mean that's like that's nuts. That's
The whole
Jalen.
team whole team had 422 receiving yards.
That's Jalen Hyatt against Alabama numbers. I mean, even better on the
I don't even
yards.
think I don't even think that Alabama game was that one-sided.
Mm-mm. But again, I mean, Kansas State. I know Tulane has been good in
Mhm.
a group of 5 in the last few
Right.
years, but
Yeah. I don't think that they're as great this year. I think they're a little bit of a down year in my opinion.
yeah. So yeah, I that line is weird, but I still believe in Arizona. So
Yeah, I'm all on it.
I guess we're both
In
back
agreement.
in the Wildcats out of Arizona.
Again, I guess you got it at +7. You probably got a little bit better odds then. So mine's at -125. Yours is probably at +100
Mm-hmm.
or maybe -110 at worst.
I'll be mad if I get a push.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you would be madder.
Yeah,
So
yeah. A push is better than a loss, but I think this will again, I really expect Arizona to win this game.
yeah, and like you said, Friday night matchup. It will be the marquee game of that night.
Mhm.
So a lot of eyes will be on it.
Right.
But moving on to, I mean, good lord, I mean, going to Kroger Field,
Mhm.
um, Georgia
Mhm.
at Georgia at Kentucky.
Mhm.
Kentucky coming off a horrendous game that duped both of us last week as we both took Kentucky minus
Yeah.
10. I mean, good lord. But Georgia minus 24, over under 45.5.
I'm going to take Georgia here and have no second thoughts about it.
I guess nothing more needs to be said. I mean, like I just alluded to, Kentucky just showed zero life.
Right.
Their offensive line was a turnstile. Shout out Gerald Mincy. I know you got hurt, but you were awful in that game before you went down. Um, but I, and I guess the thing that stings the most for Kentucky as a football program is they were basically guaranteed to have college game day this week. But then
Mhm. Right.
the team that just skull drug you now gets college game day.
Which
So
is weird to me. I don't understand why they're going to South Carolina. I mean, there's nothing that's just amazing about that matchup, in my opinion. But I guess there's not a whole lot else on the board.
yeah, I mean I
I'm more interested in the Texas A&M Florida matchup than the LSU South Carolina matchup.
yeah. I guess it's just I don't know. They haven't been to South Carolina in a while. They're
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to throw them a bone, but
yeah.
I'm definitely in agreement. Georgia minus
Georgia
24,
24. It's kind
and
of a big spread, but I mean, I, I don't see Kentucky putting up a whole lot of points on that defense.
mm-mm.
So
Yeah,
yeah, we got Georgia minus 24 at 110.
yeah, pretty simple bet. I mean, and
Yeah.
I honestly, depending on what the over under does this week, normally over unders don't change too much. I
Hmm.
might put a little bit on the under because
Yeah.
I could
Okay.
see 35-3 Georgia type score.
Let's see.
So,
I'm trying to see what our handle is looking like on the under on that game. 75.6% of bets are on the under. 95% of the money is on the under.
oh wow, then I might not touch it.
Yeah, I would leave that one alone.
Yeah, so I yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and officially say I'm just going to take Georgia
Yeah,
minus 24
yeah,
and in agreement on the first two games.
right.
Um, now we're going to where game day is, college game day.
Yep.
LSU at South Carolina.
Yeah, I wanted to look at this matchup, and my gut tells me to take LSU, but there's something about this line that I just don't like, and this is one of those ones where I'm just gonna avoid it. I'm gonna watch the game, enjoy the game, but I'm not gonna put anything on it.
Yeah, I mean, normally for betting lines in college football, home team gets what 3.5 points. So really, it should be if you're just looking at it on that perspective, LSU expect to win by 10 or so. But
Hmm.
if it were on a neutral site, but I really think Kentucky is that bad. I
Yeah.
don't I I
You
don't
think that
believe.
was more of a joke for South Carolina, right?
Yeah, and I mean LSU. I mean this is pretty much a must win for them if they
Yeah.
want any chance at the playoff. I mean I
Right.
know you could say the same about South Carolina, but I don't really think they have the
No,
aspirations.
that
So
seems like such a joke to me.
yeah,
To even, I mean, especially as flat as they came out, I don't have a whole lot of faith in their quarterback.
mm-mm.
Um, the only guy, they got a good running back, but the only guy that they have that I'm impressed with at all is this edge rusher. But we talked about him last week, and he looks like he weighs about 170 pounds, and he comes up against a big quarterback. What is he even going to be able to do?
Yeah, and LSU has a dynamite offensive line.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm it's I'm not meaning to just parrot you so far, but
Yeah, well, I
I mean
mean, that's not a bad thing for us to be in agreement. We see what we see.
yeah, yeah. I mean
I'm not taking this bet, but I would be shocked if LSU doesn't pretty much dominate them.
yeah, I agree. It reminds me a lot of the. I know it's not entirely the same, but like last year, Georgia was only like a 10.5 point favorite in Neyland. Like
Oh
ga-
yeah,
games like this when the home team is the underdog and they keep it at a low line, just to I guess try and
tease it.
per- yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm I'm going to take this game and
you
I'm
are
going to
gonna take
take
LSU. Yeah, I think that's
LSU.
the way to go. I'm still gonna hold off. I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'm gonna hold off.
There you go. All right, moving on down to the program in shambles. Probably the one that people have talked about the most so far this year. Memphis Tigers at Florida
Yeah,
State. You got Florida State minus 6.5, over under 52.5.
this line has been all over the place. Last week it opened. We talked about it. It opened at 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it got all the way down to 4 at one point, and then now, past couple of days, it's kind of creeped up back towards the Memphis side, which uh, I'm. I don't know what you're seeing. This is it's a big game for both programs.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Memphis on the outside looking in, kind of as a playoff hopeful. They've got a couple of the other G5 teams projected a little bit higher right now. I still think that Memphis is one of the probably four most favored to try to get in. They're going up against their old head coach. Uh, might give them a little bit of extra momentum. You never know which way a matchup like that's going to go. You never know if it's going to go in the coach's favor or in the team's favor. Uh, Based on how the season's going so far, I would have to think it gives Memphis more of the momentum.
Yeah.
Uh, Certainly not going to be easy to go into that stadium and win in a hostile environment. They're catching. I see again a little bit of line difference here. I got Memphis at +7. That's what I'm going to take. Um, I was happy taking them all the way at 5.5. So +7, getting a extra couple of points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say if the line was Florida State um, -7 or -7.5,
Mhm.
and that's where I would take Memphis.
Yeah,
So I'll probably just move the line and buy a point, and just lower the odds a little. But I think that's the move. I
yeah,
I could see Memphis covering 7 if they lose. but I
Yeah.
could see them winning the game outright too. I mean, the funny thing about this game for Memphis now, as a playoff hopeful in the coming out of the group of five, is if you lose this game, that looks really bad now.
Yeah, right.
even even though this was supposed to be a chance for a marquee win, a resume boosting win, now
Mhm.
it's really a must win.
Now it's a hurtful loss, yeah.
So, but I'm gonna back you at Memphis +7
Yeah.
because I could see Florida State winning by a touchdown.
Well, let's look at the facts, let's not just try to speculate, and let's look at the facts of what we've seen so far. Now, granted, Florida State had an extra week to practice and kind of get their bearings. Maybe traveling over to London didn't help them the first week. Or was it London
Hmm.
or was it? They went to Ireland, right? Yeah, they went to Ireland.
Yep.
My bad. So maybe traveling overseas threw them off. They come back, they're still not got it together. But you give them an extra week of practice, they kind of get it together. I could see that happening. However, offensively, they have established nothing in the two games that they've played.
Mm-mm.
No kind of rhythm. DJ is all over the place. He doesn't seem to have a good rapport with his receivers. Um, the line looks pretty iffy, even though they're, big athletic guys. Defensively, God, they can't stop anything. Georgia, I mean, Boston College just moved the ball at will against them. I think Memphis has every bit as powerful of an offense as Boston College has, at least.
Yeah.
Memphis has a good offense. They're a pretty solid team. They put up a buttload of points in their first game, allowed 0. They played a great game against Troy last week. Um, gave up 17 points. 7 of those were kind of garbage points. But man, I think Memphis can win this game. I definitely think that they're going to stay within the spread.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Georgia Tech and Boston College, two teams that really aren't interested in passing the ball all that
Mhm.
much, just shoved it down their throats
Right.
like on offense. I don't. I know Memphis probably doesn't have as good of a running game as both those teams, but when
That's a
you
bold
talk about,
statement. I
I
think
mean,
if
I,
I think if anything, Memphis has a better running game.
I mean, so far in the season, Memphis is, I think, in the 90s in the country on rushing yards,
Yeah.
but I know they have a better pass game than both
Oh yeah.
those teams.
Yeah. Hannigan's a good passer.
Yeah, and if Florida State continues the trend of letting teams run on them, and they're facing a team that can pass on them too, yeah, I think I think Memphis +7 is the way to go.
For sure.
So, any more thoughts on that one?
No,
All
I,
right.
ho- I hope Memphis pulls it out. I mean, I hope they pull it out. Not just because I want to see Florida State's downfall, but I would love to see the Tigers in the college football playoff. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Um, going up to Madison, Wisconsin now.
Hmm.
Uh, Wisconsin Badgers hosting the Crimson Tide,
Yep.
and Alabama, pretty heavy favorite on the
Yeah.
road at -16, over under at 50.5.
Yeah. I really I chewed on this game for a while too. It's another one where nothing just feels very comfortable. At least not right now. It might feel a little bit better closer to game time, but right now, uh, I'm not seeing anything that looks great to me. Everything is so heavily favored on Alabama, it makes me not want to take a bet on it. And I could absolutely go see them going up to Madison and dropping an egg. Especially after they had 3 1/4 quarters of questionable football against USF last week
Mm-hmm.
in a game where they were favored by 30. Um, so, if anything, I'm almost more leaning towards taking Wisconsin, but I'm gonna let this game pass as well.
Yeah, I think this is one to monitor. My gut reaction looking at -16 after Alabama struggling with USF is take Wisconsin +16, but I'm I'm probably still going to go ahead and say I'm taking Wisconsin plus
Mhm.
16.
Yeah,
But I would feel a lot better if the line was 17 and a half for Alabama. I could definitely see them keeping it within 17. Um, but that's not the line yet. But I'm going to go ahead and say Wisconsin plus 16 because physical team, Big Ten team against Alabama, who really, if the passing game isn't working for Milrow, they can key in on him. I mean, for South Florida did it for 3 quarters until
right.
Alabama hit some big plays in the
Yeah,
final 7 minutes.
yeah, yeah.
So, and honestly, that game, I think Golish made a big mistake taking a field goal down 8. I mean, he could have tried to go for that fourth and goal from the 4 and tie the
Right,
game.
right.
But anyway, I'm going to take Wisconsin plus 16. I really think,
I
and
think
it's
that's a
also
smart play. I really think that's the smart play. It's
yeah,
expected to be a low scoring game. The total is only 50.
yeah, and you're
Uh,
also, I mean, this is very minor detail, but it is an 11 a.m. kick in the Central Time Zone. Like, I don't know
yeah,
if Alabama's feeling sleepy after
right.
that plane ride up north. Who knows what could happen? And normally, I would say the home crowd at 11 a.m. kick is going to be great, but when you're hosting the Crimson Tide for an out of conference game, I think it'll be just fine.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're gonna have all the hype.
Hmm.
Wisconsin plays a slow game. They like to slow the ball down. They don't. They're kind of like a little bit more efficient Iowa in a way. Their defense probably isn't as good as Iowa's is, but I think their offense is more efficient. So
Yeah,
I could see it being a low scoring game. I definitely could see Wisconsin keeping it close. I'm pretty positive Alabama's still going to walk away with a win. Um, and again, I'm not betting it, but I would go with Wisconsin most likely.
yeah. The only thing that worries me is Tyler Van Dyke is not great. But like you said, Wisconsin plays the ball control game.
Yeah,
Hopefully that won't matter for Wisconsin to keep
right.
it within 16 points. But any more thoughts on that one?
No, I might change my. This is another one where I might change my mind closer to game time.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Gotcha.
can't on a Wednesday night. I don't think I can take. I don't think I can take a team that's getting 98% of the bet.
Yeah, I gotcha. Um, moving down to Columbia, Missouri, you have the only, I think, I'm pretty sure it's the only ranked matchup of the weekend. And with Boston College going to Missouri,
Mhm, mhm.
another 16-point spread, this time in favor of
And
Missouri, over under 53 and a half.
I am taking Boston College at plus 17 here.
Okay.
Um, I, s- I got plus 17 at minus 130.
Okay.
Um, that could be partially my bias. I, I, I still just have such a hard time believing in Missouri that they're a great football team. Boston College looked really, really good against Florida State. Um, but then they came out. They didn't they beat who did they win against last week? They
I'll
had a
pull it
good
up
win this week.
real quick. They beat the Duquesne, whatever their mascot is.
Um, this looks like a game where seems like kind of the sharp money is on Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have a hard time. I have a hard time with Missouri. They have a high powered offense. I'm not ready to admit that they're very good. I'd love to see them drop a game like this, and maybe that's why I'm pulling for Boston College. But that's a pretty big line. Plus 16 and a half, plus 17. It's been floating around 16 and a half, 17. I've seen it as low as 15 and a half. But I'm
Yeah.
going with BC.
Yeah. I really like Missouri. You know, they've played Murray State and Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
51-0 and 38-0.
Yeah.
I didn't watch those games. Don't know how the game unfolded, but just at a glance, you'd think their offense would be doing better against Buffalo. But they're, to me, just looking at the scores, their defense is okay.
Yeah.
But
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 it's Buffalo and
yeah, exactly. Um, to me, the Boston College thing. I mean, the only way they're going to win games against decent opponents is to do what they did against Florida State, where they
yeah.
control the clock, work the run game, and play that NFL style. Now that Bill O'Brien is their head coach, but I I really think their best win so far is Florida State. Obviously, when you play the Duquesne Dukes, and I really believe Florida State is that bad. Like so that's why I'm going to take Missouri at minus
Mm-hmm.
16 is what I'm seeing.
Okay.
So that's what I'm going to bet. Um, so yeah, I'm taking Missouri and another early game. I think it's 11:45 Central.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a weird week because like that game's at noon. Alabama Wisconsin's at noon. Memphis and Florida State, I believe, is at noon as well. So a lot of
Yeah.
these games are going to be over, and your betting our betting story will be told
Right.
before the afternoon games kick off for the most part. But like I just again I just don't believe. I mean Missouri at this point has a better caliber of athlete than Boston College, and they're playing at home. I'm taking the Tigers.
All right. The last time these two teams played together, BC actually won by 7
When was that game?
3 years ago. That was in
Interesting.
2021.
Hmm. Interesting. Was it in Boston or in Missouri?
Um, I would have to guess that it was a home and home, but I can check real quick. Let's see. It was at BC.
Okay. I mean, obviously those teams are completely different
Oh, and
from
it went
then.
into overtime.
Okay, so these two teams have played a close game before,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know. Missouri was real bad in
It's
2021.
a very, very different team, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with you that Missouri is, obviously ranked too high, but I don't know. I'm just feeling the Tigers for some reason.
Yeah.
I so final answer.
This is
I'm
the first
taking.
one that we disagree on.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, final answer Missouri minus 16, and you said BC
16 and a half.
16 and a half. There you go. So the final college game on our board, we have Texas A&M heading into the swamp
Mm-hmm.
against the Florida Gators, and A&M favored -3.5, over under 46.5.
I'm gonna take Texas A&M here. Florida, I guess they're gonna be starting their freshman quarterback, although coach hasn't really set out a. I think they said that they're not going to be putting out a depth chart anymore. Old Sunbelt Billy.
Obviously that was the reason they lost to Miami. So good decision.
But I do think Texas A&M has made some improvements. They lost that game to Notre Dame, which looks like a lot worse of a loss today than it did a week ago. I think that loss Notre Dame had was really just a fantastic game plan by NIU. But I think Texas A&M is a good team. I don't think Florida's a good team. I'm going to take them at -4. I guess you were getting it at or you were seeing 3.5 point spread on this one.
Yeah, for what it's worth, all of my lines are from ESPN Bet.
Oh, so. Okay. Yeah, I'm taking A&M at -4, and I feel like they'll win this game by a minimum of a touchdown.
Okay. This is really Florida backed into a corner in my eyes. Like if they don't win this game, it could get ugly before the calendar turns to October. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's already ugly, but it could be like Billy Napier is fired, ugly, because then they have to go to. I think they go to Mississippi State next week, and then UCF before coming to Neyland on October 12th. So they could potentially be 1-4 heading into Neyland if things go off the rails. And I mean, obviously, people are going to look at A&M losing to Notre Dame and then Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois last week. But I just don't. It's so dysfunctional down there in Gainesville that I think I'm on the same page. I don't think in this case pressure will make diamonds.
No.
And I think A&M wins by 10-14, honestly. Because you're starting to sorry to interrupt. You're starting to Legway, the freshman quarterback for Florida, against a really good defensive front. And I don't think the swamp effect will matter. It didn't matter in week 1 against Miami. So they
only scored a touchdown more than West Georgia did against this Samford team, So you may have a marginally better offense than West Georgia.
Yikes.
And the Florida's defense is not good. I think that's their biggest glaring weakness. You can blame it on Graham Mertz all you want to, although he was projected to be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC this season. It's really their defense that's the problem. You get a freshman who got to play a little confidence game against Samford, the Bulldogs. Put up 400 yards of offense against them, but you only scored 7 more points than West Georgia. I feel like Florida's going to get just railroaded in this game.
Yeah.
I hope they do. There's nothing that makes me happier than watching Florida lose on a Saturday.
I mean, this is kind of a tangent, nothing to do with betting, but how can you fail at 3 coaches in a row and not lose your job as the athletic director at Florida? Like, Strickland he's in trouble. I think if Napier's fired, he's gone too.
Yeah, he should be.
But that that's besides the point. I mean,
You know,
talk.
he's probably only keeping his job because they keep beating us.
Well,
Some stupid reason.
honestly, if we're being for real with ourselves, that shouldn't be the standard at Florida. You're in a fertile recruiting ground, and you're getting passed up by Miami. You're getting passed up by even Florida State in the recruiting. And now Gus Malzahn is at UCF,
Heck yeah.
and they're on the schedule in 2 weeks. So again, Florida in a corner. I don't think they do anything in that corner. I think they get shrunk into that corner more. So I'm backing you with Aggies
Yes.
minus. You said -4.
-4.
I'll go ahead and bet the -4 too then, because just get the odds a little bit better.
That's
Sorry,
actually at +100 too.
it's not bad.
That's
Any
great.
yeah, any idea on the handle for this game if you
Oh
can
yeah.
find it?
It is gonna be
Because I would imagine a lot of people are betting Florida.
we've got a pretty good amount of bets on Florida. Yeah, the highest Florida bet percentage is getting money line at 58.5%. The
I mean,
spread, we got 41% of the money on A&M, 55% of the bets on A&M. So if anything, I mean, to be honest, the Florida spread looks to be sharper. But I, when it's close like that, it doesn't really mean anything.
yeah, for sure. But we're both in agreement. So the only game we differed on was Boston College at Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it for college football. You got any more thoughts on any of those matchups?
That's all I got this week.
Cool. Moving on to the NFL, where we had good success in week 1. Tomorrow night, Buffalo Bills going down to Miami Gardens. You got Miami -2.5, over under 48.5. Thursday night football.
Thursday night football. Miami really exceeded expectations last week, pulling out a win against the Jags. I think most people had the Jaguars to win that game, which it looked like they were going to be a shoe-in to win it pretty early on. And then Miami just kind of gritted it out and won the game. I think I've seen rumblings that possibly both of their starting running backs are going to be out this week, so we might get to see some Jalen Wright action.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not going to touch the spread in this game, but I'm going to take the Dolphins straight up.
There you go. I like that bet. I mean, if you look at Miami since McDaniel has been the coach, they are absolutely dynamite in the month of September, and then they taper off near the end of the season. And that's enough for me, especially seeing the Dolphins rally last week after the whole Tyreek Hill drama, and then
that
the
was
crazy. And then you had the Bills really in a dogfight with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So, and they're going on the road. And I don't know if you've seen the article that came out in the summer, or even before that, really. But when the game is sunny in Miami early in the season, the away team sideline is like 20 degrees hotter.
Yeah, they're just getting smoked over there.
Yeah, and they're used to the chilly weather,
right?
And I think they're not going to be able to keep up, especially with Miami only needing to cover 3 points. So I'm going to take Miami -2.5. I'm not, and you're taking the money line.
I'm taking the money line.
Beautiful.
I like the Dolphins this week. I like the Dolphins.
Well, honestly, what I just said about the sideline won't matter because it's Thursday night football. But I'm still taking Miami.
Yeah.
The main fact is their record in the month of September under McDaniel. So Miami money line.
Struggled with the Bills in the past, though, haven't they?
Yeah, it's normally I can just look up the recent history, but I'm pretty sure it's mainly the home team wins.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in that matchup in recent years, because last year was when their offensive coordinator was losing his mind in the booth at the end of the game, because the clock ran out, and the it's really the weather. That's how it always is with the Miami Dolphins. Once they get late into the season,
Hmm.
they taper off. I mean, the Titans beat them
Right.
late in the season last year, so I am thoroughly on the Dolphins.
All right.
So, any more thoughts on that
Yep.
one?
Nope. I want
Cool.
to see. I want to see our boy Jalen Wright get some PT. That'd be great.
That'd be awesome. All right. Another VFL to talk about in this next matchup. We have the Seattle Seahawks heading to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots,
Hmm.
coached by VFL Gerard Mayo, who got a, I would say, pretty surprising win in week one
Yes, sir.
against the Bengals. But
That
the
was the
reason I,
biggest spread of the week. The Bengals were favored 6.5.
mhm. And honestly, that apparently didn't matter to the odds makers because now Seattle coming in at -3.5. So the Patriots are home underdog and the over under 38.5.
And Seattle squeaked out a really, really close victory too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was that a home game for Seattle? Seattle
I think
away or home?
I'm pretty sure that was um yeah, it was a home game for
Yeah,
them.
I thought so.
But again, I mean the Broncos, like, they won by 6 at home
Right. Yeah.
against the Broncos, and they're
Yeah.
going into Foxborough
God.
favored.
And Bo Nix couldn't stop turning the ball over either.
Yeah, not a great looking stat line, rivaled only by Will Levis last week.
I'm sure you loved that one. So yeah, I'm gonna take a little bit of a teaser on this game. I'm gonna do a little same game parlay.
Okay.
I'm taking the Patriots at plus 10.5. So again, I'm teasing some points.
Hmm.
Taking the Patriots at plus 10.5, and I'm also gonna take the under, but I'm giving myself a few points there. So I'm taking the under 43.5. Just doing a little single game parlay. That moves the odds to about -110. I feel like that's safe.
I like that. I mean, again, I don't know how Seattle comes into this game favored. I just don't get it. Um,
Just based on last week.
yeah, just based on last week, I mean, I guess that's all we can really go on. I mean, but it's just weird. It's weird to me,
Right.
and that's the exact reason I'm betting the Seahawks -3.5.
Okay.
I think somebody knows something. So,
You don't think I mean, I don't know. I don't think the Patriots are as bad as I mean, they've had a couple of down seasons ever since Belichick. Well, even Belichick's last couple of years weren't great, but um had a couple down seasons. But I really don't think that they're a bad team. They've got a good quarterback situation. If anything happens to the starter, you got two guys that you could pull
mhm.
um, from backups that are both capable in different ways. Uh, yeah, well, I mean, we're kind of on the same side. I wouldn't be surprised to see Seahawks win, but I definitely think that the Patriots can keep it within 10.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a world where Seattle wins by 4 to 9 points, and we both hit.
Right.
So, but I just that line is too weird for me to not think somebody knows something. So I'm betting the Seahawks on the number there, -3.5.
All right.
So moving down um, to Jacksonville, you have the Browns coming off that thoroughly embarrassing loss. I mean, showing little to no fight against the Cowboys. Cowboys easily covering
Mm.
that spread, and I I don't know. I'll just kick it to you. Jacksonville -3 over under for 41.5.
So yeah, I mean, last week's game, both plural.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Jacksonville, I thought like they handled business okay against Miami. I mean, they probably should have won the game. They're still kind of getting into form, but they have a good team. On the flip side, I mean, to me, uh, Deshaun Watson just has not looked right uh, ever since he's been back.
Mm-hmm.
He just hasn't looked right. Cowboys, I think, are going to surprise some people. They looked really good last week.
Yep.
So we might be, overcorrecting a little bit, but I'm taking the Jags on this game at -3. Uh, and I feel like that should be a pretty easy one to walk away with.
Yeah. I This is a tricky one to me. I mean, Cleveland normally in the NFL when you have a talented roster like the Browns do, you normally bounce back after that embarrassing of a
Mhm,
loss. But you're going down to Jacksonville. Weather will be hot. This is a Sunday noon game, and like you said, Deshaun Watson is obviously a shell of his former self.
mhm,
And you mean Jacksonville lost in week 1 too, so they're going to be wanting to bounce back at
yep,
home. So I think I'm in agreement. I will ride with you on Jacksonville -3. I just don't think Deshaun Watson can do it anymore. I mean, that is honestly the worst contract in all of sports right now.
mhm,
I mean, it is outstandingly like it is the stupidest contract, rivaled by the Mets and Bobby Bonilla. Like I just don't understand anything about it. I mean, I would honestly just cut him and take the loss at this point.
mhm.
Like it's dumb, but yeah. All that to say, I'm riding with you. Jacksonville
Right.
-3. Any more thoughts on that matchup?
No, should be a good game.
Yeah, I do think.
Two solid defenses, two offenses. Well, I don't think that the Browns' offense is ever, that flashy, whereas the Jags can be.
Mhm,
Um, so give a little bit of edge to the Jacksonville offense.
yeah, I do think it will be a close game, but I still think the Jags win by 4 to 6 points. So I think they're covering that -3.
Yeah.
So now we go west, very far west, to Mile High, Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
Got the Steelers coming in,
Mm-hmm.
who are favored -2.5 over
2.5.
under 36.5.
Steelers kind of stole one against the Falcons this last week.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Justin Fields didn't play awful. I mean, he did what he had to do.
Yeah.
Najee Harris ran the ball really well. Defense played pretty solid. Um, whereas a lot of people think had high hopes for the Falcons. So Steelers definitely stole one there. On the flip side, Denver stayed close in a game against the Bills that was expected to be pretty much of a runaway for the Bills.
Yep.
And that again included a ton of Bo Nix turnovers. God, I want to say, I mean, he was throwing the ball away every time I looked at the screen. Um, how many turnovers? He only had 2 interceptions. That's crazy. It seemed like he had 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they were just in such crucial moments, and they did have a fumble. So I'm breaking this game down. Pittsburgh's going to take advantage of some turnover situations. Oh, I said the Bills. They played the Seahawks. My bad. Pittsburgh's going to take advantage of turnover situations. I'm taking Pittsburgh -2.5.
Yeah, I pretty much have the same read. I mean, the Steelers' defense is always good
Mm-hmm.
under Mike Tomlin. Um, and that's not the defense you want to be facing as a rookie quarterback. The only thing that would make people, I think, bet Denver is just because of they're a home dog,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't see it. I and I'm pretty sure I haven't. I think we'll get a better picture closer to Sunday, but pretty sure Justin Fields is going to start again
Mm-hmm.
in lieu because of Russell Wilson's injury. Um, but yeah, I'm still I'm reading now actually. Um, Russell Wilson is still questionable, limited participant on Wednesday,
Yeah.
but we'll keep an eye on that. But
I
if he
don't
does,
think it would matter who starts. I'm banking on the Steelers defense stealing this game.
yeah, and yeah,
No pun intended.
go ahead. Sorry.
Said no pun intended.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I pretty much, like I said, have the same read. I just think the defense is going to be too much. And over under at 36.5, I think that's the read everybody has. So I'll take the Steelers, low scoring affair. I could see something like 13-6, even. Like,
Yeah.
especially with the mile high altitude and the offense
Yeah.
is being tired. So both of us, Pittsburgh -2.5.
All
Pretty
right.
simple.
Lots of agreement this week.
I
Heck, you're
know.
gonna agree with me on the next one.
Uh, we'll see. We'll see. Final game in the NFL. We have the New York Jets coming to Nissan Stadium in Nashville. -3.5 in favor of the Jets.
Oh,
Over under 40.5.
see, I don't know what's up with these lines. I'm getting +4.5 is what I was seeing.
ESPN bet. I don't
Yeah.
know what they're doing, but that's what I'm reading.
They're trying to shave some points.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprising.
No. Knowing ESPN, certainly
Yeah.
not. What is your read?
Do you want to go first on this one, or you want me to still go first?
We'll switch it up because
Yeah, let's switch it up because I think I want to have a surprise for you.
okay. Um, I think for all of the talk about Will Levis, the for the Titans and the way the offense looked, mirroring the last 2 years, looked like not much had changed. What stood out to me was the Titans defense looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're about to face a 40-year-old quarterback at home. Um, and honestly, I'll talk more about this tomorrow on the Titans podcast. But Will Levis, if he makes that mistake again, I would be shocked. That pick six is something that a player does not do twice. Like that was one of
Just
the worst plays I've
one
ever
more
seen it.
brain.
Yeah, one of the worst plays I've ever seen in my life. So I just don't expect that to happen again.
Unbelievable from an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, honestly, but I really believe the Titans bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
At least on the number here. I don't know if they win the game, but I don't think they're going to get blown out by any means. So I'm
Yeah,
going to take the Titans +3.5.
I don't have a surprise for you then because I'm taking the Titans too, but I got them at 4.5.
Okay.
Um, I I don't necessarily know that my reasoning is all the same. I don't think that Levis will play as bad as he did the other day. I still think that he's not the quarterback that eventually needs to be running things over there, unless he unless he discovers something. And maybe I am biased. Maybe I still have a little bit of a Kentucky hate for the dude. I've just never been impressed by him. I know the metrics say otherwise. Um, that's not what my eyes tell me. But anyway, I'm gonna give the Titans, home field advantage. I think they played against a fairly good Bears team. Unfortunately, came out with a loss. Weren't able to get into the end zone a couple times when they should have. I think that'll change this next week. Um, the X factor in this game to me is going to be Brees.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is, he's really really good right now. They utilize him in that offense pretty well. He's kind of got the Alvin Kamara style to his game.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I think the Titans defense does enough to keep it close. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull away with a win, but I think in a game where Aaron Rodgers is actually favored to win, end of the day, yeah, he's an old guy, but he's still a good quarterback. A couple of the unfortunate errors that happened to him against San Francisco the other night probably shouldn't have happened. That the interception really wasn't his fault.
No.
There was a first down late towards the end of the game that was pretty crucial. That they called uh, they called the receiver out of bounds after they got the first down. His toe just barely was out of bounds, even though he drugged the heel. So they kind of got screwed over. Um, I'm still mad about that game, but
Yeah.
yeah, that should be a good matchup. I'm with you. I'm riding the Titans.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, people forget the Titans were ahead 17-0 last week. It took a
Mhm.
meltdown of magnanimous proportions. A punt block return for a touchdown, that horrible
Yeah.
pick six. Titans defense allowed like 100 less than 150 yards.
Oh man, they had homeboy Caleb just locked up in the first half.
Yeah. The only reason the Titans lost was because of just disaster plays. And
Mhm.
that gives me confidence on the Titans plus 3.5. And now it's time for my Titans best bet of the week.
All right, you're gonna pull it out. I thought we were gonna save it.
I'm confident in this,
All right.
and
Let's see what you got.
I don't think the odds will move at all. It's another player prop,
Okay.
the Will Levis redemption game. Over 225 passing yards. Mark it down. You're getting plus 185 on the odds.
Whew,
I think that's a good bet.
that's
And
a good sprinkle. I mean, Brock Purdy put up 231 on this defense.
yeah, and the 49ers are mainly running offense. So I'm I'm very confident in that because Hopkins should be more healthy than he was last
Mhm.
week. Ridley, the connection is still getting there, and I think the home field advantage also will help. So Will Levis over 225, my Titans best bet of the week.
All
So
right.
there you have it. And that should conclude this episode of Money Cannons, unless you have anything else for us, Loose.
No, not at this moment. What I am gonna do though is if the people want to find me on Twitter or I'll have you repost it. But what I'm planning to do is when it gets closer to game time on Saturday, I should be locked in on my bet of the week. It'll most likely be a college football bet. But I'm gonna post that on Twitter or X if people are calling it that. Um, so we can get that closer to game time
Nice. What is your Twitter handle?
at loose_bets.
There you have it, folks. Cool. Last thing I'll say, load the money cannons. Always load responsibly. And there you have it.
You should have told Shannon Sharp that yesterday.
Oh, goodness. Good old Shannon. Uncle Shannon.